Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to be working, getting back into the shoulders. So last class I was working posterior shoulder, shoulders related to the posterior core. Today we're going to be getting into bear crawl, working more through the top, getting that bracing. Bear crawl is great for building good shoulder stability if you want to work towards like handstands, things like that. So I want to think about this in terms of really developing a good connection between the palms of the hands to an active shoulder blade, feeling how that shoulder blade connects into the core through the ribs. And so hopefully we'll try to get some good cueing in to like build that sense of connection. The more we're able to slowly build that connection, stronger the shoulders are going to feel, especially getting into things like handstands. I see a lot of people do handstands. They don't have good shoulder stability, so the work that they do in handstands is very risky and tends to lead to shoulder and neck injuries. Even if they don't injure themselves specifically in the handstands, that tends to lead to shoulder and neck pain and in other ways that they may not necessarily know is because of the work they're doing in their handstands. So, with all that, let's get started. So we're going to start in our standing position, getting into some standing cat-cows. So I want to drop the arms out to the side, extending the elbows actively. So as I extend, it's almost like I'm trying to reach my elbow pits out and away, spreading the hands as wide as possible. I want to really stretch and spread so that you feel that stretch in the palms of your hands. And we're going to start with palms spiraling up towards the ceiling. And the first thing I want to do is just get into our breath, breathing into our balloon breath, that abdominal core, feeling that breath expand through the belly, out through the side body, and into that low back. On the exhale, we're drawing out through the mouth. Feel that belly button draw in, up and in towards the spine. Nice big inhale. Feel that nice inflation. Exhale. Draw the navel in and start to feel the movement of your pelvis related to your inhale and exhale. As we inhale into that belly, we're going to allow the pelvis to start to tilt lightly forward, which is going to get us a little sway in our low back. As we exhale, we're getting a scoop in the pelvis, feeling that navel draw into the spine. Notice if there's any tension or discomfort in the low back related to that pelvis tilting forward or to that scoop. I have a little bit of a pinch discomfort. I'm going to put it at a level 1 as I inhale and my pelvis goes forward, which is putting me into lumbar extension. So lumbar extension is a little sensitive. So I want to go slow and I don't want to push it. Now, as we're feeling that pelvis move back and forth, we're going to start to add in shoulders. So as we inhale, I'm spiraling those palms up towards the ceiling, feeling that nice opening up through the chest, getting tall in the spine. As we exhale, we're going to shrug up and spiral the palms down towards the floor, thumbs turned down, and I'm now reaching forward through the fingers as I'm exhaling and scooping, getting as nice and rounded through the upper back and lower back. As I inhale, coming back into that shrug, rolling the shoulders back as we spiral the palms up, and then reaching back down to the floor as I'm continuing to inhale. So inhale, again, nice big sway in the back, belly fills up. Exhale, shrug, round, scoop. Try to keep your eyes fixed on a point on the wall off in the distance. We'll get a good 5 up to 10 reps. With each one of these, I really want to focus on how much can we open up that spiral, turning palms and elbow pits up to the ceiling, getting a nice little lift through the top of the spine and the sternum. On that inhale, we can even bring that breath of that inhale up into the upper chest, kind of in this clavicular area, and also feel those shoulder blades packing down and back as you spiral up. And then as we exhale, big shrug, and then reaching down and away. Can you feel that big stretch across the upper back? We got this scoop. Can you also feel that stretch getting to the lower back? So go ahead and shake the arms and shoulders out. Now we're going to bring in our bowls of soup. So very similar, hands still spread. We can start with those palms turned up, and we're going to work one side going back and forth. So one palm is up. We're going to exhale as we spiral that palm as far in as we can, and that's spiraling all the way up through the long arm bones into the shoulder. And I want to think about, we're letting that ball of the humerus spin inside that shoulder socket. So I don't want the shoulder blade to move a whole lot yet. We'll get to that in just a second. I want to feel that spinning. How much can we spin that long bone within that socket internally? How far can we spin that long bone externally? And then same thing to the other side. Exhale as you internal. Inhale as you external spiral. And then same thing to the other side. We can start low with the arms down to the side. And as you move into it, we can slowly start to elevate the arms. And the first thing I'm kind of want to notice is, how is it different on the left side compared to the right side? Is one side is it tighter, more restricted? Is it a little gristly? Is it a little crunchy? Is it a little clunky? Either on that internal spiral or the external spiral. And again, as we come up, I want to make sure that we're not getting any kind of pinch pain in the shoulder. And at this point, we can start to move both sides at the same time. So as I spiral one side internal, I'm externally spiraling the other. This is where I want to start to think about a wet washcloth, fingertip to fingertip. And I want to wring out that washcloth. Now we can start to let that shoulder blade round up and forward, starting to get a little distorted through the spine. Feel that twist moving through the upper body. As I spiral and twist, I'm reaching away, trying to get long through the fingertips like I'm, Stretch Armstrong. You can even do a little bit of movement through the neck and the head, kind of feeling if there's any tightness and tension into the neck related to that right shoulder or left shoulder. Again, we'll shake the arms out, and now we're going to grab our staff. So we're going to get a nice amount of shoulder mobility before we start to get down onto the floor and add shoulder stability. So getting a nice shoulder width grip on the staff. This is where I want to imagine we're bending or breaking the staff in two. So I want that bend to happen at the wrists, at the elbows. So elbow pits are spiraling up towards the ceiling. I also want to feel it in our shoulder blades. So as we spiral those elbow pits up, the shoulder blades should be spiraling down as if they're moving into our back hip pockets. And we're going to come right back into that breath and pelvic tilt. So nice bend in the staff. Be really active, like you're trying to break it in two. On our inhale, Pelvis is tilting forward, getting sway in the low back. On the exhale, navel comes into the spine as we scoop. On your next inhale, as you got that nice big sway in the back, on your exhale, scoop, really hold that scoop as you bring your elbows up towards your ears, seeing how far can we bring elbows to the ears or beyond the ears without losing that active scoop of the pelvis. So as I draw up, I don't want to be in my sway back. I don't want to have my rib cage sticking out, big lumbar curve. I want to be scooped underneath, which will pull the rib cage down at the same time that we're pulling the elbows back. That might mean that you can't go as far, and that's okay because we're really focusing on how much range do I truly have just at the shoulders. And if I get a big sway in the back, I can pull my arms back more, but I'm not actually getting the mobility in the shoulders. It's all happening in my spine. So I want to feel that scoop, rib cage is drawing down. Exhale, squeeze into it. Inhale, allow everything to move forward. We can get that sway in the back, and then exhale, scoop as we pull. After 5 up to 10 reps, as you pull on the next one, I want to pull into light tension, not heavy tension. And at this point, we're going to lift the shoulder blades like we're reaching up higher to the sky, and then we're pulling those shoulder blades down and back. Exhale as we push, inhale as we pull. See if you can, I still want to make sure we have a nice active bend in the staff. So I want to feel those, the palms trying to bend or break the staff. And the more active you are at the palms, the more you should feel those shoulder blades active along the rib cage. And that shoulder blades is really where I want to focus some attention. Feel those shoulders lift off the ribs. Feel how far can you slide them down towards your hips. Can you move the same with the left shoulder compared to the right shoulder? As we're doing this, as we pull those shoulder blades down, try to avoid letting those elbows bend. The elbows are still actively straight as we pull. On the next one that we push, we're going to stay elevated, and we're going to go, and we're actively pulling back from this elevated place. This is where we get back into that scoop of the pelvis, rib cage, pull, draws down as we reach back. With those shoulder blades elevated, you should have a little bit more range of motion in which you're able to pull those elbows back. I'm not focused on, I'm able to get my elbows behind my ears. Not everybody's going to be able to do that. That is not the goal. The goal is just experiencing how far you're able to go. And can you work and get a little bit more range by, doing about 5 to 10 reps. We're going to let the arms drop down to the side. Palms are now facing back. We're still spiraling and bending that staff, but we're bending it away from the body. Elbow pits are still going to spiral forward. Shoulder blades should round and pack down and back, so our chest is nice and open. I want to avoid shoulders rounding forward on this. So if we're in this position, I want to actively spiral like you're bending that staff. Feel those elbow pits turn and face forward. Feel if there's some light stretch across the upper chest. Nice inhale into that belly, crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as we lightly lift elbows up to the ceiling. Inhale, we let it soften. Exhale, we lift, squeezing into it, continuing to spiral and bend that staff as you lift. As you lift and spiral, you can also feel your sternum kind of lightly lift to the ceiling. That should feel that like nice opening stretch through the upper chest. As you're doing this, you can lightly play with neck mobility, checking blind spots, light tilt and lifts, noticing if there's any tension in the neck relative to the right side or left side shoulders. Next, we're going to flip those palms into the other direction. So palms are now facing forward, still continuing to bend the staff or break the staff away from the body, bending it behind us. Everything else is the same. Nice inhale, exhale, lift and squeeze while we're lifting at the sternum at the same time. Again, we can also continue to add in that light neck mobility as you lift, especially if it feels good. There's areas where it feels a little tight and a little restricted. I want to move very, very light, softly, make sure it is not painful. All right, we're going to set the staff down to the side. We're going to come down to the floor and get into our shin box position. So I'm starting out on my left side hip or shin box. Left knee is forward. Left hand is coming down, grounding down to the floor on the outside of the hip. We're going to spiral that elbow pit out and away and feel that shoulder blade pack down and back. I want to feel grounded through that palm as well as at the shoulder blade. Feel that shoulder blade grounded into the rib cage. And grounded into the rib cage, it's just going to feel active. You can feel the shoulder blade actively pushing your palm into the floor. We're going to focus on the back hip first, getting into some nice little knee openers. So nice inhale into our crocodile or balloon breath. On the exhale, we're lifting that knee lightly up to the ceiling. Inhale, bringing it back down. As we lift the knee, I want to make sure we are not moving at our shoulders. So as I lift that knee, I don't want the shoulders to rotate back. That's going to make it a little easier for me to lift the knee. I'm going to take that away. I want to be fixed in my upper body so that I'm only lifting and focusing on just that hip. I can't lift it as high, but that's because we're isolating just that hip. And with each one, without forcing it, can you squeeze into it a little bit higher? Notice how high does that knee go? Where does it feel tight and restricted? After 5 up to 10 reps, we're going to do a very slow transition across, doing windshield wipers. I want to make sure the feet remain on the floor. So I'm going from one hand, opening up both, lifting, letting both knees lift and rotate. My other hand comes to the floor behind. As I rotate all the way through, ground through that palm, spiral that elbow, feel that shoulder blade, ground all the way down through the palm of the hand. Nice tall spine. I'm going to again, focusing on that back knee. Nice inhale into our crocodile breath. Exhale as we lightly lift that knee. This hip is tighter on me. I don't lift this side up quite as far. But again, we don't want to force it. Making sure that we're not moving and rotating through the shoulders. Shoulders stay fixed. See if you can lift, focus just on isolating that hip. Where does this side feel tight and restricted compared to the other side? Are you able to lift it as high, or is this side a little bit different? I have a lot more tension through the outside front of my hip. That's a very important assessment point. Again, after 5 to 10 reps, we're going to very slowly do our windshield wiper transition. Again, going from one palm, ground that other palm. As soon as we get on that other palm, pushing to the floor, let that shoulder blade be active as we come to the other side. We're still focusing on this back hip. We're not doing the knee lift. So again, palm is grounded, elbow is spiraled, shoulder should be packing down and back, grounding through the palm. I want to feel active shoulder pressing down. As we inhale, well, before we inhale, I also want to make sure that our weight is lightly shifted forward. I'm in my left side shin box, so my weight is shifted onto my left side hip. My right side hip is actually off the ground. I want that shift to help lift it up. And I want to keep our weight shifted so that we can work on exploring mobility through this back hip, but without shifting our weight. So, nice inhale. As we inhale, I want to reach that hip to the floor. As we exhale, that hip is lifting up, reaching forward, and we're actively scooping our tailbone, like I'm taking my tailbone and I'm trying to touch a point off in front of me. Inhale, I'm reaching down and back. Exhale, that hip's moving forward and scooping. Again, it's like I'm trying to touch something off right in front with that tailbone. See if you can feel some stretch through the front of the hip. Are you able to touch the floor? Or how close to the floor are you able to get? And again, I want that reach to the floor. It is not a shift. The shoulders should not be rocking back. They shouldn't be rotating back. I'm staying grounded, spiraled, locked in on my left side, and I'm reaching back through that right hip. Exhale as I scoop. The more scoop we're able to get, the further we're able to extend that back hip, the more you should start to feel that glute tighten up and contract. And that's what we want to feel. I want to feel that glute getting contracted based on the position that we're putting the hip in. After 5 to 10, we're going to very slowly windshield wiper transition. Grounded shoulders as we move from one shoulder to the other shoulder. Palm grounded, spiraled elbow. Feel that shoulder blade grounded down through your palm. Weight is forward on that side, this next side hip. I'm on my right side, so I'm grounded and loaded onto the right side. My left hip is off the floor. Inhale, reach that back hip to the floor like you're trying to touch it. Exhale, let it come up, forward, and scoop. Again, like we're trying to touch something in front of that hip. You can put your hand there just to give yourself a cue. Inhale as we reach that hip back. Exhale as we scoop. Again, watch avoiding moving, rotating, changing the position of our shoulders, our spine, and this front side hip. I want to stay grounded through the shoulders, locked in on this side, just reaching back on the inhale, scooping, drawing that navel in with the scoop on the exhale. Again, can you feel that stretch through the front of the hip? Can you feel that glute start to contract? Is it tighter and more restricted on this side or on the other side? And where is it tighter? Do you feel it more through the front of the hip? Do you feel it more into the groin? Do you feel it more in your low back? Again, all of these are very important, very valuable assessment points. And we're going to slowly windshield wiper back across to the other side. We're doing the same exact thing, locking that shoulder blade in, grounding it through the palm, elbow spiraled out. Weight is shifted forward. We're inhaling into that back hip, letting it drop. Exhale as we lift and scoop. And now we're adding in our rotation. Reach and rotation. Imagine you got a buddy right over here through the knee, and you want to just let those fingers reach and extend towards the knee. Think of that knee as an arrow. Inhale as we bring it all the way back, like we're unwinding, we're winding and unwinding through the spine based on that hip. Inhale, hips on the floor. Exhale, scoop, lock that back hip first, and then continue to exhale as we reach and rotate. And we can add one more little piece of winding up into this. As we scoop, as we reach, spread those palms, the fingers wide, extend the elbows like the elbow pit is lifting up to the ceiling, and palm spirals up to the ceiling at the same time. Notice how that creates a lot more tension into the upper body that combines into that tension that we're building into the low body with this exhale, scoop, tension in the hips, spiral through the palm, adds that tension into the shoulder. As you rotate, how does that feel through the spine? And then we'll slowly windshield wiper all the way across to the other side. Doing the same thing. Palm, shoulder blade, elbow spiraled out. Shoulder blade is grounded through the palm. Nice tall spine. Inhale into that back hip. Exhale, actively scoop, lock in that back hip. And then we're reaching through our knee. Extending that elbow, fingers spread wide, spiraling palm up to the ceiling. Inhale, we're unwinding it, letting that back hip drop to the floor. Exhale, scoop, and winding up. Feel that tension build from hip into shoulder as we rotate. How far can you get those fingers to move? How does it feel on this side compared to the other side? Does it feel tighter, more restricted? Are you able to go as far? If it feels different, in what ways does it feel different? Can you point to the spots on your body where it feels tighter and more restricted? Again, I'm still feeling this largely through that front hip. And I'm a little bit more restricted on my rotation because of it. Very slowly, we're going to bring that hips, do our transition back to the other side. Now we're going to bring that hand off the floor. Forearm goes parallel to the ceiling. We're still inhaling into this back hip. Exhaling, lift and scoop. And as we lock in that back hip, we're going to lift that elbow like you're trying to touch the ceiling. And as you lift through that elbow, that same side hip is kind of rooting and grounding down. Inhale, breathing into that back hip, letting it reach to the floor. Exhale, it lifts, scoop, locking that back hip in, front hip grounds down as the elbow reaches to the floor. See if you can feel this through that opened up side body. Shoulder down into that side body, low back, especially on that exhale. Inhale, we're filling up that bowl of the pelvis. Feel that hip reach to the floor. exhale, scoop, lock it in, and reach. We can bring that arm down, ground it to the floor. Nice, slow windshield wiper moving to the other side. As we get to the other side, letting that arm up, lift, inhale into that back hip, exhale, scoop, lock in that hip, now reaching through the front hip, lifting elbow like you're trying to touch the ceiling with that elbow. Continue to feel that back hip. Scoop and lock in, and then add the lift, the grounding down through the front hip and lift. How does it feel different on this side than it did on the other side? Is it tighter and more restricted on one side compared to the other? And where do you feel it? Do you still feel it in that hip? Do you feel it in your low back, or do you feel it up into the shoulders? Bring that hand down, ground it to the floor, pack shoulder, slow windshield wiper all the way back across to the other side. Now we're going to get into our folds. So I want to be we're still in shin box, but now I want shoulders to get square to the shin as much as you can. If you're a little tight and restricted and you find it's difficult, get as close as you can. I want to try to keep the hands square with the shin as well. Hands are going to be square with shoulders. Shoulders are square with shin. Taking that nice inhale into that back hip. Exhale, lift and scoop that hip, and then letting the hands slide forward as we fold to the floor. Reaching forward on that exhale. Inhale, we're bringing it all the way back up, allowing that back hip to reach to the floor. Exhale, lock in that back hip first, and then slide those hands forward. What I want to avoid on this is rounding through our upper back. So as I reach forward, I don't want to drop the head straight down to the floor. I don't want to drop the chest straight down. I want our spine to remain straight. So the hands are simply sliding forward, keeping the spine in alignment. Inhale brings us back up. Notice where you feel tightness and tension, and how far are you able to go? Do you feel it in the back hip? Do you feel it in the front hip? Or do you feel it in your low back? We'll go ahead and ground that palm, shoulder blade into the palm, slow windshield wiper all the way across to the other side. Doing the same thing. Inhale into that back hip. Exhale, scoop and lock that back hip forward. Hands parallel or even with your shin. How far forward can we slide? Inhale, bringing it all the way back. Again, how does this side feel compared to the other side? Are you able to remain square to your shin on both sides, or is one side different? Is one side tighter, more restricted, less mobile? Do you have less access to the same range of motion on one side as you do on the other? Again, this side is tighter for me. I feel my left hip restricting how far forward I am able to fold. Once we've matched reps on this side, we're now going to go back and forth, side to side. Nice slow spiral through our windshield wiper. Feel those shoulder blades grounded as we move through to the other side. And then a nice exhale as we fold. As we go side to side, I'm now less concerned about staying square to our shin. This gets to be a little bit more exploratory. We can move towards the shin, we can move towards the knee, we can even reach back behind the knee. As long as it feels safe, not painful, we get to explore a little bit. And whatever we explore on one side, I want to explore the same thing on the other side. And we're going to do a good 10 up to 20 reps side to side on this. By going back and forth, we really get a good sense of comparison. How does the right side feel, similar or dissimilar to the left side? And can we continue to reach and extend a little bit further on each one? Once we get about 3 up to 5 reps side to side, we can start to open up our shin box, letting that back knee slide open a little bit. Again, still nice, slow windshield wiper, making sure shoulders are grounded. And then we're opening up that back knee to the same amount on the other side. The slower we go through this, the better. It's easy to get into a rush and start to go fast. But it's that nice, slow that helps groove the movements in. Coats the joints with synovial fluid. Gives us good repetition in our neurology so that we have good neurology to support our movements through the rest of the day. We can continue to open up that back leg more and more as long as it feels comfortable, not painful. Until we get closer and closer to what we would consider a yoga class pigeon pose. Although I'm not overly concerned with getting into that end range pose, especially if it's painful or tight and restricted, I don't want to force it. Forcing it would lead to bad responses in the body. If you're able to get into it, great. If not, equally great. The point of this is not to discover beautiful poses. It's really just to discover what our bodies are capable of doing, where we're limited. And really where we're limited is probably the most important discovery we can find, because where we're limited gives us things that we can work on in order to overcome those limitations. But we cannot overcome limitations that we are not aware of, and so the only way we become aware of it is to explore and discover. All right, so now we are going to shift to our quadruped position. Coming to hands and knees. I want hands directly under shoulders. We're going to spread the fingers wide as we can, grounding down through the palms, extending the elbows actively. Go ahead and have the toes tucked in as well. Inhale. We're going to let our hips rock back to our heels. Feel the weight of your hips load into that big toe. Can you feel some stretch? I want to be soft, non-forceful, non-painful. As we exhale, we're rocking forward and loading into the wrists. I want to feel, how does that right wrist feel compared to the left wrist? Inhale rocks us back into the big toes. How does the right big toe feel compared to the left big toe? Is one side tighter, more restricted? Is it painful? If it's painful, then you need to back off and not push so far. Moving back and forth, nice and slow. After about 5 up to 10 reps, on the next one, I want to actually turn those heels out and away so that we're kind of getting tucked underneath out to the pinky toes. Again, continuing to rock back hips to heels to feel that stretch more to the outer arch of the foot. Continuing to load forward into the wrist, rocking back into the outer arch of the foot. After 5 or so reps of that, we're going to come back to our starting position and we're going to get into kind of bowls of soup, but with our hands grounded to the floor. So focusing on elbow pits. I want to let those elbow pits spiral as far forward as they can go, and then internally spiral as far back as they can go. As we spiral those elbow pits forward, it's a nice inhale. As we spiral them back, it's an exhale. And I want to start to notice that shoulder blade, how the shoulder blades move based on how our elbow pits are moving. As the elbow pits spiral in on our exhale, we're going to lightly press. Feel those shoulder blades, how they want to round over the top of the ribs, moving up to the ears. We can get a light press and feel that stretch in between the shoulder blades and the spine. As we inhale, elbow pits are spiraling forward. Feel how those shoulder blades want to rotate down and in towards the hips, towards the back pockets. The sternum is also going to drop towards the floor lightly. We can really work and accentuate that movement as you internally spiral on your exhale. Push through the palms. Feel the shoulder blades round as far as they can. Feel that nice stretch. Inhale, spiral the elbow pits forward. Feel the shoulder blades move down towards the back pocket. Feel how active those shoulder blades get on your rib cage. Now we're going to add in one more component. And if your wrists get fatigued at this point, we're going to spend a decent amount of time on the wrists. It's okay to come off the floor, roll them out a little bit. I don't want to overly stress them. We can do short reps, come back to the floor, spread the hands, ground again, and come back to the next part. So we're going to now add pelvic scoop, pelvic tilts into this movement. As elbow pits are spiraled forward, we're inhaling, filling up that belly so that pelvis is tilting forward to the floor and we're getting a big sway in the low back. As we exhale, spiraling elbow pits in, getting that rounding in our upper back. We're also drawing the navel into the spine and scooping. It's basically taking us right into a cat-cow. So we can really feel those shoulder blades packing down and back. As we open up, let the head lift up to look forward. As we exhale and scoop, allow the head to load all the way down. See if you can feel that stretch through the base of the neck, as if you're trying to touch your tailbone to your forehead at this imaginary point in the middle. Good. All right. So again, if you need to roll out the wrists a little bit, take a break on them, that's fine. We're now going to get into some kind of child's pose, which is then going to take us into our bear position. So from our quadruped, I want to reach the hands out in front a decent amount. I want to try to keep the hips as much over the knees as possible. But if your shoulders feel unstable, if they're weak, or if they're painful, We may need to let those hips drop back a little bit. I also want the toes tucked underneath and active on this. I don't want the ankles to be flat to the floor. So, and really on this, if this is where I want to be really safe with where we're at with our shoulders. The progressions we go from here, if you have shoulder discomfort, shoulder pain, or instability, you need to back off on how far you take the progressions. Only go as far as you can safely, non-forcefully, non-painfully. So fingers are spread wide. Palms are pressing down into the floor. Elbows are active and straight. We're taking a nice inhale, filling up that pelvic belly, letting the pelvis tilt forward, getting a big sway in the back. Exhale, scooping the pelvis. Feel the ribs, bottom rib and the pelvis move together in that core. Get nice and tight. Inhale, belly opens up, big sway in the back. Exhale, nice scoop. On the next inhale, as you feel that opening up, when you exhale and scoop, we're going to, at the same time, reach the sternum down to the floor. Hands are actively pressing down. Inhale, we're going to lift the sternum, letting the head come back up, chest come back up, big sway in the back. Exhale, scoop as we reach the chest to the floor. I want to be pressing down, actively downward pressure through the palm. The more pressure you have down as you're scooping, rib dropping, and the chest reaching to the floor, notice how active you feel that shoulder blade on your rib cage. I want to feel that active shoulder. We're trying to really build that neurological connection into the scapula, the shoulder blade's relationship to the rib cage, how it accesses our core. On the next one, as we inhale, when we exhale and drop into tension, we're going to stay in light tension. So I don't want this to feel massive or heavy. And from here, we're going to do the same thing we did with the staff earlier. We're going to push, reaching forward, letting the hips slide back so the shoulder blades come up to the ears. And then we're going to pull. Hands are grounded to the floor so they're like really sticky, and it slides the spine forward, and feel the shoulder blades slide down the rib cage towards the hips. Exhale as you push. Inhale as you pull. And I want to make sure those elbows stay active and straight, especially as you pull. Don't let them soften and bend. I want to isolate this movement to the shoulder blades on the upper back. Again, we'll go ahead and come out of that just to give a little break to the shoulders before we go into our next position, which is getting into our bear. So once we roll the shoulders out, we're now going to come back to our quadruped. Again, toes are tucked. From here, instead of having the hands forward, I want the hands underneath the chest. We're going to lift the knees off the floor. I want to keep the knees bent, and we're going to see if we can, how far can we reach our chest down. If we need to walk the feet back a little bit in order to get more range, I want to see if we can find that same depth of our shoulders that we just had at that same depth of that child's pose. Can you get into that same position with the knees off the floor and knees bent? From here, we're going to do some gas pedal, reaching and extending. One knee, like I'm reaching back with that knee, and I'm reaching through the heel. I'm reaching through the heel like I'm trying to touch the floor. Touching the floor is not necessarily
important. As you reach through one, then you can let it soften and then alternate to the other. And with each one, I'm going to go nice and slow. Exhale as you reach and extend. Inhale as you let it soften. Exhale as you reach and extend to the next one. See, where does it feel tight to start with? Is it tighter more in the calf, the back of the knee, or up in the hamstring? And as you get into it, really trying to draw that stretch out. Can you start to feel one continuous lengthening stretch from the bottom of the foot all the way up to the hip? Try not to come out of how deep your chest is. I don't want to start to rise up and get more into a plank position. And again, if we need to drop the knees down and take a little bit of a rest, we can. We're going to bring it back up. Again, starting out in our quadruped, lifting the knees. Find the depths of your shoulders. Next, from here, I want to keep the knees bent again, and I want to see if we can find that press. Can you push? Feel the shoulder blades lift, rise up to your ears, and then pull. And really here, pull, we get to use gravity a little bit. Can you feel your shoulder blades slide back on your rib cage towards your hips? Can you feel that action of the shoulder blades back and forth? Again, inhale as you let it pull. Exhale as you push. Again, I'm going to go ahead and just let knees come down on each one. Because at this point, we're building a lot of things up, and I want to make sure that we're feeling safe. We're not overloading the shoulders. Next is we're going to start getting into our crawl. So as we come back up, again, nice spread hands. Find that position of the shoulders first. From here, we can lightly start to extend those knees. And I want to start to walk one foot slowly forward towards my hands. And as I do so, I'm actively straightening that knee, reaching the heel to the floor as I bring the next foot up, doing the same. And I'm going to slowly walk my feet as far as I can, getting close to my hands. Now, as my feet get closer to my hands, the position of the shoulders will have to change. And we're only going as high as we comfortably can, keeping both hands evenly grounded to the floor. And then we're going to slowly walk those feet back. And as we walk those feet back, I want to shift back into the depths of that shoulder by dropping the chest into it. Can I get back into that same position? And again, we'll go ahead and take a little rest, come off the hands, and before we get into the very last part, which is going to be the crawl. So at this point, if shoulders feel solid, no pain, no instability, we should be pretty clear to just kind of start to explore crawling from this bear position. So as we get back into it, again, nice grounded palms, spread fingers, finding the depths of the shoulders. We're going to lift one hand and reach. So this is that reach through the shoulder blade, ground the hand first before we accept the weight onto it. Then our opposite leg is going to reach forward. Bringing the next hand, nice reach. Then opposite leg. I want to continue to really work on feeling this reach through the shoulder, feeling it lift up towards the ears, and then that pack as we absorb that load going into that neck side reach. And And from here, we're just playing with a nice, slow crawl. We can move around the room. We can move around our mat. We can move forward. We can move backwards. Backwards is actually one of my favorites because as we move backwards, we really have to push and then absorb and push through that shoulder blade. Notice if there's a difference between how the left shoulder takes on weight, accepts weight, shifts it into that rib cage, into our core. How do you feel in the back of the leg? Does one hamstring, one calf feel tighter than the other? And if this feels good and solid, or if it feels a little weak, this is a great movement to add in on the daily as far as building up that strength, especially again, if you want to get good at handstands, get solid through that connection through the shoulders, building this practice into those crawls. When you go to the bathroom, take a break from work, crawl from one side of the house to the other side of the house, from one side of the room to the other side of the room. Adding it in a little bit every day is going to have a big impact on those shoulders. It's going to have a big impact on posture, helps keep you upright a little bit more, less rounded, better access to the core, less injury risk to the shoulders and to the neck.